And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Howdy, partners. Giddy up and welcome to the wildest rodeo in the NFC South. I am Musab, one of your trusty co-hosts on here, this podcast, RBLR Bucs, and we are about to lasso you into the world of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like you've never seen before. Now, I reckon it's only fair to fess up right from the get-go, folks. Last week, it was a tough loss against the Bills. And yeah, I know it's been a bumpy ride with these 3 losses in a row. Maybe Halloween isn't just over for us yet. Maybe it just continues to be spooky, but we ain't the ones to back down from a challenge, all right? So dust off them boots because it's time to saddle up for that Week 9 rodeo showdown against the Houston Texans. Saddle up, Buccaneers Nation, because RBLR Bucs is the most rootin' tootin' Buccaneers loving podcast in the Wild West. We're not about to let a few losses rattle our spurs. All right, so prepare to be taken on a bucking good ride through Buccaneers journey. That being said, before we rustle up some of that football talk, let me introduce you to my partner in podcasting, the wrangler of football stats, a true cowboy at heart, a football enthusiast who knows the rodeo spirit is what we need to conquer that Texans stampede. Ladies and gentlemen, Carter Brantley. Carter, what's going on, man?
Oh, how you doing, man? I'm loving the intro. Yeah, with the Houston Texans coming in, a rodeo is perfect. And I was actually born in Texas, so this is actually, super fun. But yeah, unfortunately, we're not coming to y'all with better news. The Bucs looked pretty bad last week against a really good team. The Buffalo Bills are Super Bowl contenders for sure. And they looked like it, and the Bucs did not. So that's just the way it is, and we'll get into it. And just try not to be too negative. I guess we'll try to stay a little bit positive, but it's going to be hard. So I want to first focus because the whole game was kind of a downer, but towards the end it seemed like there was a little bit of life with the Bucs. They had a touchdown at the end, but I do want to emphasize it was an 8-minute touchdown drive in the fourth quarter when they're down 2 touchdowns. They got 2 first downs off of penalties. How do you explain the clock management there in a game, in a must, not a, I don't want to say must win, but, in a situation where they've got to score quick? How do you explain that game management, Musab?
For me, one is horrible coaching. Another example, I feel like I saw that in the last 3 minutes of the first half. Both examples of just, kind of bad coaching and kind of just lack of playing as to how we can execute some kind of quick yardage. How can we get down the field? Because I'm pretty sure like they spend 4 of those minutes just racking up like, I don't even know, 10, 20 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, just no urgency kind of to get down to the end zone. And I don't know, just all those things. It's like they really didn't really want it that bad to me.
For sure.
I don't know. It just seems so odd because I know we're not the only ones who are thinking this. You're already down 2 touchdowns and you're playing this kind of, football. It just seemed really odd. And it's just one example of what was happening throughout the whole game is what I'll say.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think it was a really accurate microcosm of the bigger problems that the Bucs were experiencing in that game. So you mentioned coaching. Do you put that on? Do you kind of put this situation on Dave Canales, on Todd Bowles for not, hey, hustle up, come on, we got to score 2 touchdowns here? Or do you maybe put it on the players, or maybe 50-50? I'm kind of more in the 50-50 camp. I feel like the quarterback's got to step, Baker's got to step up, be like, hey guys, come on, let's get this thing rolling. But at the same time, the coaches got to get the plays in. You can't just be freestyling out there. So what's your opinion on it? Coaches or players, or a little bit of both?
To me, I guess I would say 50-50. It's really, for me, it's a conglomeration of
Ooh,
just mediocrity everywhere. Okay.
for sure.
As we know, the O-line is bad. Okay. We don't have a run game. mean, Baker is no Brady, nor is he a Mahomes. He's not the hero, okay, of our
Right.
team. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, we haven't seen anything special from Canales, especially after the bye week. Same thing with Coach Bowles. Uh, again, just nothing really working out for him. He keeps on saying, things like, oh, we're going to fix this and, just lack of execution, just kind of these generic kind of terms as if you just pulled them out from Chat GPT or it's not like there's any change. And that's just the biggest issue for me is the coaching is showing no change. And then same with our team where we continue to just be a bad O-line. Our run game is horrible, but it's not like it's just going to make a complete 180 from there. So that's where I kind of throw the coaching, in front of the bus. But I don't know. It's kind of a little mix of everything, and it's just embarrassing to summarize it.
Yeah, not really much more can be said about it. Yeah, although I will say, you almost said Bowles for Coach Bowles. That's a tough nickname for him. I don't know if I quite want to put that on him, but they've definitely been playing like like crap. So it's definitely not necessarily an inappropriate nickname. But anyways, we'll move on from this just debauchery that was that 8-minute touchdown drive. But from a broader sense, I mean, the Bucs haven't scored 20 points in a while offensively. When's the next time they're going to do it? I mean, can you say confidently that they will? Because the Broncos last season kind of went through this stretch where they were just horrible offensively. They weren't scoring points. And the Bucs kind of seem to be going through a similar stretch. Do you see the Bucs scoring 20 points anytime soon?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think we will. I just don't know when, honestly, because we have the right weapons, but things like our offensive line, which is just going downhill, basically, and then our kind of lack of play calling when it comes to the run game. Thankfully, Rashad White is able to, be a good kind of receiver on one hand, but then again, I mean, there's even an example. I remember I saw it from the game. Chase Edmonds kind of basically running in to the wrong kind of hole.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I
So,
saw that as well.
um,
Plenty of
will we ever be able to score 20 points? I think so. I mean, we're not playing amazing teams from here on out. I mean, yeah, there's a couple like the 49ers or something, but um, it's tough to say how many times. I know we will once for sure, fingers crossed, but
right.
I don't know. It's just hard because it's like, yeah, you got Godwins and Evans, but what else do you have? And Wirfs, of course. But other than that, I mean, sure, Baker Mayfield can make things happen, but how much can he really make happen when, our running game, doesn't help him out at all? And then again, our offensive line is just allowing so much pressure that, he's kind of being thrown off. So I don't know. Maybe once. I'll leave it at that.
Maybe once. All right, that sounds good to me. Maybe once. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a really tough stretch. Especially like you mentioned, they're playing the 49ers. They also take on the Titans. They're a really well coached defense. So there's no guarantees there. They play the Falcons again. The Falcons defense can be kind of tough. I mean, they held the Bucs to under 20 points the last time. Packers are pretty good defensively. So yeah, that's kind of why I brought it up, was just because long term, kind of a big picture kind of deal. I don't know. They might not score 20 points too many times for the rest of the year, which is kind of depressing for a team with, like you said, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, two really elite wide receivers that could easily rack up 1,000 yards each. So it's just a very weird and kind of interesting thing. But is there any way you can kind of take a positive spin? Because they came close at the end. I mean, it was kind of a blowout for most of the game, but it ended up being a 1-possession loss on the road against the Buffalo Bills. So can you call this a moral victory, or do you still feel like it's just like, so who cares? BFD, big deal. You know what I mean? Or are you maybe trying to look at it positively as a moral victory?
No, I think we're below average team. We're getting away with a lot of opponent mistakes. I'm pretty sure that last drive, correct me if I'm wrong, that last drive they got a face mask, so that's how
Yeah,
we were kind of
two
able to.
first downs picked up.
Yeah, we were able to get some first downs, and then look at that Falcons game. They were supposed to rack up like 14 plus points against us,
Right.
had they not just screwed up themselves, or
Right.
finally, well, thanks to our defense on the other hand as well. But no, I don't know. I don't take it as a morale victory. For me, the whole game was ugly. Okay, nice. We got that nice, time consuming drive, but that's really about it, though. It's like, okay, sure, we have our, kind of uphills a little bit here and there, but for the majority of it, it's kind of downhill, or it's kind of just a flat line. So no, I'll kind of leave it as it's not a morale victory. But what do you think about it?
No, I'm with you. It's hard to call it's hard to have a 3-game losing streak and call any of them moral victories, especially in a 17-game season in the NFL where every game's pretty important. Baseball, you can have close games, or maybe you can have, in basketball, you can have a close game with a good opponent and say, oh, well, it was a well fought game. Like, didn't get the result. No, not in football, man. It's wins, wins, wins. There's not really very much room for moral victories. So yeah, I'm with you. It's very much the Bucs are just a below average team. That's who they are, and yeah, I don't know. Which kind of brings me to my next question. Obviously, the trade deadline was on Halloween. For those that weren't aware, there were some moves that were made around the NFL. The Commanders traded both of their edge rushers, Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Sweat went to the Bears. Young went to the 49ers, which the Bucs are going to face them. So just more reason to maybe not watch that game if you want to watch some good football. But the Bucs were inactive. They were neither buyers nor sellers. They did not make any moves. Do you agree with this decision? Do you agree with the front office kind of saying, "Hey, we're just going to stay the course," or do you wish that the Bucs would have at least committed one way or the other?
I think we should have maybe tried to get someone, I guess, but I mean, it's kind of hard to think about how as to who we would be able to get.
It's a good point.
I don't know. It's just we're just such a kind of messy team.
Not in a
It,
good
it
way.
oh no, not in a good way at all. Not in a good way at all. It's just hard to think about. Oh, this is we're just missing this one or two pieces
Right.
which can really really help us, or really be a kind of game changer.
For sure.
And
It's a
that's
lot of
on
people.
both ends, offense
Right.
and defense. Okay, good. We get a great running back. Okay, well, how many yards is he going to get against our opponents with a trashy offensive line? Okay, you get a nice offensive lineman. Okay, well, what are you going to do with Rashad White and Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn Vaughn? If
Right.
they, okay, even if they do create holes, okay. Same thing on the defense. I mean, overall, shout out Antoine Winfield for carrying the whole defense on his back along with Vea and David. But I don't think we're kind of just missing one or two pieces, which is going to really help us in the long run. At this point, I'm just thinking, let's just kind of make the best out of it. Let's kind of get a better idea as to what we seriously need to focus on in the draft, and then come in the off season, trying to sign a free agent. But what about you, man? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for you, but I'll definitely answer the question that I posed as well. I definitely wish that they would have at least committed to one or the other, because if you're not doing anything, it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those non-committal relationships where both parties are kind of doing it just to do it. It's like they're just dating each other just to date each other, and it's like, man, that's not healthy.
Sounds like middle school.
Right, right, exactly. The Bucks are in a middle school relationship with this roster for sure. So I kind of wish they would have sold a little bit if they weren't going to buy. But at the same time, there was at least maybe a move or two to be made. The Vikings, they just lost Kirk Cousins for the year to an Achilles injury, and they sold one of their interior linemen. They traded him for a day 3 pick to the Jaguars. I feel like that would have been kind of a nice get for the Bucs, just to kind of shore up that interior offensive line. Because then at least you could have kind of made more of a general assessment about the running back situation, instead of just going into this offseason saying, well, we don't really know what we have because we didn't have a great offensive line. So I do kind of wish maybe they would have done that, or maybe they could have explored trading Mike Evans. The Jets are apparently a team that was calling for him. I don't know. It would have been kind of interesting to see how that all played out. But I had a follow-up question for you. Do you wish that it sounds like I definitely wish I'm definitely glad they didn't buy, like they didn't commit to this team. But do you wish they would have sold? Like maybe you think they could have dealt some of their veteran guys for some draft capital?
I think so. I think, yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, with the whole kind of non-committal relationship, doing nothing does kind of leave a bad impression. For
Absolutely.
me, kind of gives me this kind of false sense of hope, as if, you know, this Buccaneers office is kind of reminding me of like those typical workplaces that send you those emails saying, hey, we're going to make these changes, here's a little pizza party. And then
Right.
they never actually give you, that kind of salary increase or something.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the fact that they're really doing nothing about it, I'm getting a false sense of hope. I don't know. What are your kind of overall thoughts? Do you really think that maybe just maybe we kind of have some chance of really improving? Slash, maybe we just kind of have to let it wait out. Of we will make the right moves. When it's time to draft and when it's time to kind of sign some free agents in the off season, or do you just like what? I don't know what's going on.
Right. It's kind of one of those that dog in the fire meme, and he's like, everything is fine.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like no one really knows what's going on with the Bucks. No one knows what direction this team is headed. They're they don't have a franchise quarterback. No one knows how long Todd Bowles is going to be around because this is kind of a second consecutive season where the Bucks had a chance to, like last season, they had a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. They obviously fell incredibly short. And this season, they have a chance to make some noise and win a very awful division. And they might not do that, which is just really disappointing based on the roster that they have. So I don't know. I don't know. It's tough to see. And yeah, I mean, I would have loved, like I said, I would have loved for them to at least just commit one way or the other. But maybe the front office's view is that they have some young players that they drafted this offseason and they still want to just see how it all plays out. Um, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. But you know what isn't a weird thing? You know what has true vision? It's definitely going the right direction is the RBLR shop. If you're looking for some cool gear, maybe a little pick me up since the Bucks are, on a 3-game losing streak, definitely check it out. Shop.rblrsports.com. You can find Rays, Bucks, Lightning, and Rowdy stuff on that store, on that website. And we'll give you a promo codes just to try to lift everyone's spirits after this rough stretch of games for the Bucks. It's Cannons, Cannons. Type that bad boy in and get 10% off your entire order at shop.rblrsports.com.
Maybe this is what our listeners need for those who are in that non-committal relationship.
That's right.
They need something to juice up the
Mhm.
kind of relationship. Yeah, buy your
Mhm.
partner some RBLR gear.
There you go. That's right. And maybe if you buy some gear, maybe the Bucks will change their ways. Maybe they'll win a few games. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be a good luck charm. But anyways, after that shameless shop plug, I want to ask because we've been really negative the first half of this show, so I want to try to shift it to a little bit more of a positive thing. What are you eating this weekend? Because the Bucks are on the road. So I'm just kind of staying at home, but I'm really excited. You've always got some fire dishes cooking up. So what are you grubbing on this weekend game day?
Ooh, that's a good question, man. For me, again, shout out to Costco for keeping the costs low. They be selling these like bison meat. So I was just gonna kind of make some kebabs in the air fryer, and then I don't know, maybe just have a side of just some chips and salsa or something. But
For
yeah, I was
sure.
just gonna kind of make some kebabs. I've been eating a lot more bison. Apparently, it has some health benefits.
Hmm.
Um, y'all can look that up on the internet. Don't just use me as a source. But yeah, man, it's pretty delicious. It's got a different taste. But yeah, that's really about it, though. What about you, man?
Bison meat. I'm gonna have to check that out. I do have a free pizza from Domino's, a little
Ooh,
free medium 2-topping pizza that I might get. I'm digging this pepperoni mushroom combo as well as garlic parmesan sauce. I'm not doing tomato anymore because I don't know, tomato just got kind of bland for me on pizza, like tomato sauce. So I do a white sauce from
oh, okay.
Domino's, and it's kind of good. Like it's still Domino's, so it's not like it's not gourmet or anything. But as far as like a free 2-topping pizza, shoot, you could do a lot worse. So that's probably what I'm gonna be grubbing on.
All right, hell yeah, man. Can't go
Indeed.
can't go wrong with pizza.
That's right. Yeah, I'm a big pizza guy. So I'm pretty excited for that. But there is some football going on Sunday, obviously. They're taking on the Texans. Uh, what areas are you looking for the Bucs to improve on? Is there anything that I know it's hard to pick just one because they've lost three in a row. But is there anything maybe that you think that's achievable, like like an achievable goal? What are some things that you're looking for the Bucs to improve upon on Sunday?
Yeah, one thing I'm looking for, at least when it comes to the offensive side for sure, is by not doing this, which is basically how Canales kind of run up the middle on first down, like almost every single drive. I feel like he
Right.
does this. To me, it's predictable. Okay, we hardly ever benefit from it, so it's like, okay, well, might as well just start 2nd and 10 every drive if that's the case. So that's what I'm looking for, is maybe something a little bit different. Um, Listen, if our run game and you just running it up the middle is just so trash, and why don't we kind of juice it up with some screen passes or something, like just some kind of outside tosses? Maybe that might work. Um, and on the defensive side, I feel like we just kind of need to find some ways to really improve that kind of outside pass rush. That pressure that we had, in our Super Bowl run with JPP and Shaq, for example. I
I
feel like
miss
that's what made our defense, and that's what made Todd Bowles really kind of,
successful.
shine,
Mhm.
during that Super Bowl year. And I feel like we're not really doing that. Defense is a problem as well. We got a few elite players like Winfield, Vita Vea, and Levante David, but overall, we just lack things like, coverage. I feel like we're doing a little bit more zone coverage than man coverage, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's not really
shortstop.
working out as well. So I'm thinking maybe we change that up a little bit. So those are kind of things I'm looking for, a little bit of change. I feel like maybe, some of those, yeah, as I mentioned, short dump offs, screens and replacement, definitely if you're trying to want to get more points for sure. But what
Yeah.
about you, man? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, changes is, shout out to David Bowie, changes need to come because good Lord, I don't know if they can take a four game losing streak. That might derail the season if we're being honest. This is a big game. So yeah, I'm definitely looking for some more explosive plays offensively. I mean, that's much easier said than done. And like you mentioned, I think that the running game, it is what it is. They clearly can't really get it together. So, like you mentioned, maybe some short passes, some screens, maybe just some little dump offs, get some RPO action, just something because, good gracious, it's looked rough. So clearly, clearly the way they've been doing things has not been working. And like you said, just shake it up a little bit. There's got to be a different way to do things. And yeah, it's been discouraging for sure. So hopefully they can turn that around. And on defense, like you said, the pass rush has been a huge problem. I'd also like to see them get some takeaways. That'd be kind of nice. It feels like they got that interception on Josh Allen that led to a touchdown, but that was more of Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things than the defense actually forcing a
That
turnover.
was more Winfield. I think that was Winfield with the block as well.
Right, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. It was a combination of Winfield and Josh Allen just being Josh Allen. So, yeah, the rest of the defense kind of needs to step up other than just because, the Antoine Winfield show is awesome and it's fun to watch, but, that's not winning football. One guy can't do everything. But I also love that you mentioned the Bucs might as well start 2nd and 10. That was a good point because it seems like they do, or 2nd and 12, really. They're the opposite of the Eagles because the Eagles feel like they start 1st and 9. The Bucs are doing going in the wrong direction.
We're just wasting it. It's hard to just say, oh, this guy or these guys really need to step it up, blah, 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 because I don't think that's the case, really. Our issues are because of the consistent kind of poor performance by our offensive line, by our running backs, and then
For sure.
by our defense. So for me, it's changing the strategy. Okay, our defense is getting exhausted. We're getting beat down on these third downs, by our opponent's offense. And then our offense, we play for like 40 seconds and then boom, here we go punting again by Jake Camarda. Shout out Jake Camarda though. All right. At least he's
Oh,
not letting us down. He hasn't never let us down this whole season so far.
he's one of the best punters in the NFL, and I say that in all seriousness, like no sarcasm or anything. It's just total sincerity. He's one of the best punters in the NFL.
I remember when we drafted him, you were a little like, I think you
I
you
was
raised your
very negative.
eyebrows. You were like, whoa, okay.
Uh-huh. But that had less to do with him and more to do with the fact that it was in the fourth round. But hey,
That is true.
clearly, there's a reason why I'm doing a podcast and not the general manager of the Bucs. So yeah, it was a great. Hey, it's been a great decision, a great move, and it's been a lone bright spot in an otherwise kind of depressing team for sure. But it's also even more depressing that the lone bright spot is the punter. So that that's not super great. But now let's kind of shift the focus to the Texans because we've been focusing a lot on the Bucs and rightfully so. But the Texans are not that bad. They lost to the Panthers last week, which was not great. It was the Panthers' first win of the season. How do you think the defense can try to limit CJ Stroud? He's a rookie, and the Texans are a pretty young team with a first-year head coach. So do you think maybe they take advantage of the inexperience to try to limit CJ Stroud, who's actually been a pretty good rookie quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's firing on all cylinders when it comes to our defensive line for sure. Trying to just wreak some havoc, throw them off, change some things up, as we've already mentioned before. Because yeah, this is where we can take advantage of that inexperience for sure. Um, they don't really have anyone that really stands out. That makes me think, oh wow, we really got to lock this guy down, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's just kind of just applying the pressure, throwing them off, things that our opponents have been doing to Baker Mayfield because of our crappy O line. So I'm looking for the same kind of thing. And I will say that I mean both of those, I feel like the loss against the Panthers and the Falcons, unfortunately, kind of resulted in just some kind of last minute changes or just some last minute kind of whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I mean, who knows? Their record could be different. Maybe they could be standing different because they had a good game against the Saints, I believe. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, same thing with this. I think same thing with the Steelers. I think they had beaten them pretty bad as well. I think that was the Steelers.
Yeah. It was the
Um,
Steelers. Yeah.
so yeah, they do have what it takes. I think this game, if we lose it, this is the one where it's like, okay, I feel like a lot of us, I'll tell you this, this is where I'm starting thinking, okay, who are we going to be drafting? All
Yeah.
right. This is where I'm like, okay, you know what? To hell with these guys, to hell with this guy, that guy, whatever, whatever. Who we going to let go, who we got to bring in, because this is where, it gets mortifying if we keep on losing. You can excuse some of our losses in the past, like the Eagles and the Bills. But the fact that we haven't even racked up 20 points as well, Carter, is also embarrassing as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. If the Bucks lose this one, we might be talking, like you said, we might be talking some draft prospects next week,
I think we're
which
talking
is
some severe depression. I think there's going to be a
yeah,
lot more psychiatry consults being done in Tampa if we are to lose this game.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know what to say because the Texans have been, they're a young team, so they're very up and down. Like you mentioned, they beat the Steelers. They had a really dominant performance against the Jaguars, who Jaguars are a really good team. But they've also lost some question mark games. That like you mentioned, they lost to the Falcons and the Panthers. They also lost to the Colts in Week 1. So they're just as inconsistent as the Bucks. So honestly, if the Bucks can't take advantage, then yeah, things are going to look really, really bad. Um, but shifting the focus more back to the offense, because I wanted to emphasize this point for the Bucks. They've got these two pretty good offensive tackles. So the interior of the offensive line is really where they struggle. So do you think that maybe the toss, like you mentioned, the tosses, maybe some RPO action, or maybe even honestly going really throwback with the college, like some speed options types of things, just trying to get some rushers to the edge and take advantage of the fact that Wirfs and Gadecki are both really good at their respective positions. Do you see some more outside runs coming in this game against the Texans?
I think so, and I hope so, because I think that's what we need if we are to kind of get down the field. I think that's what's going to help us stay on the field, allow our defense to get some rest, for example, because as I mentioned already, we just keep on playing these quick drives, just 4 and out over and over and over again. We don't really make things happen. And I'll tell you this: if we are to get more than 20 points, I think it's going to be because we're able to get some field goals here and there as well. I don't think we're just going to be racking up touchdowns the whole time. I don't think it's just going to be one field goal if we are to get over 20 points.
Yeah,
So I'm counting on our guys to help, Chase McLaughlin rack up some points as well, because I got him in fantasy in one of my leagues.
there you
And
go.
yeah. So no, but in summary, yeah, we got to definitely change it up a little bit, at least with the run game, grind it out. Because listen, everyone knows our run game is trash. If we don't change up our kind of strategy in the run game, then everyone knows we're going to the pass game. And if we're just relying heavily on the pass game, who knows how far that's going to take us against an up and down team like the Texans.
For sure, and I think that's an important point to make because the pass game has been a bit up and down. They haven't really been as dynamic and explosive as you'd expect. But it's hard to make a real evaluation of them because the play action can't be there because who the hell is going to buy that? So it's really hard to make these kind of long-term decisions that the Bucs are going to have to make this offseason with a lot of changes. Changes are coming. So it's hard to make these types of roster evaluations when they can't really, they can't really give Baker a real grade based on what he's done this season because he hasn't gotten any help in the run game. So it's hard. They could let him walk or they could try to draft a franchise guy, but it's going to be tough moving forward for sure. So kind of moving on to we've had this kind of special segment coming at the end of episodes for a while now, the over and under special. And I know, Musab, you've got some stats cooked up for us to try to guess just to establish an over under. What's the line? What's the stats? What you got for us for this over and under segment?
Well, I believe the line as of right now is they got Texans negative 2.5.
For sure.
But I'm thinking more along the lines of player/team props. So I want to know Rachaad White over under 45 yards.
Yards rushing or all purpose?
Oh, yeah, yards rushing. Sorry,
For sure,
yards rushing.
That's a hard one. It's a really hard one because he's actually a really decent receiving back. So if it was all purpose, over every day of the week, but my goodness, running the ball is tough. I'm going to go under. I don't think he hits 45. I think he might hit 35 or 40, but you can't, it's a trend. It's no longer kind of these isolated incidents of him not running the football well. It's just how this season's going to go. So I'm going to go under.
I'm just going to lean a little bit on the over. I think we might see a slight improvement in the run game, or at least with Rachaad White's stats, such as, yards rushing. So I'm going to go over. But now how about this one? Buccaneers defense, over under 2.5 sacks.
That's another tough one because the Texans have Laramie Tunsil and they've got, an okay offensive line. But, they've got kind of a questionable interior as well. It's kind of a similar situation to the Bucs. So I think Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, those two guys could have some big games. I don't know though, because CJ Stroud gets rid of the ball pretty quick. I'm gonna go over though. I think they get 3, but I don't think they go over by much more than that. Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I think Shaq gets 1. And I think Vita Vea gets 1. So I'm gonna go over.
I'm going to hit the under just because I haven't seen anything super kind of dominant from our defense overall that will allow us to get more than 2.5 sacks. I think it's absolutely possible. Yeah, Shaq Barrett and Vita Vea rack up a sack for sure. But I don't know. I think it's going to be pushing it. If not 2, maybe 3, but that's it. Definitely not 4 or more. I'll tell you that. But yeah,
sure.
I'm leaning towards the under.
All right. Hey, fair enough. And both of these situations, Vegas knows what they're doing. You know what you're doing by setting these stat lines because, man, they're tough calls. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where my head's at. But yeah, Lord knows we could be coming back next week and saying that Rachaad White ran for 100 yards and the Bucs got 5 sacks. All these crazy things. So hopefully that's the case. But we'll move to the prediction segment because that's what the audience wants to hear: who's going to win and by how much. So Musab, I'll let you go first. Who you got in this Bucs Texans matchup?
It's hard to say this, but honestly, Carter, I don't think I have been too optimistic in this episode. I feel like you probably haven't either. And
Nope.
a lot of Buccaneer fans probably aren't either. And for that reason, I'm going to say it's going to be 2024 Texans win. I don't think that we really have that much to beat this. I think the reason why we keep losing is because of ourselves. It's not because of our opponents. Okay, fine. We lost because the Eagles are the Eagles, but we lose because of ourselves. Sometimes we're given the win. Sometimes we're given, making it a closer matchup, but we don't, as Todd Bowles mentioned, we don't execute. So for that reason, I'm going 2024 Texans win. It's hard to say, but I won't be
Hey, it's
surprised if
real.
we lose. Yeah, it's brutal. I won't be surprised if we lose. What about you, Carter?
Yeah, you got to keep it real. I'm going to be positive. I got the Bucs winning 21-17. I don't know. I just got a good feeling. I feel like the Texans are just as inconsistent as the Bucs. Unlike the Bucs, they've got a really young roster, so they're on the up and up, and they've got a really talented, a young head coach that seems to really have a good handle on things. Another San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator that's a great head coach. Go figure. But yeah, I've got them winning. I've got the Bucs winning. I think experience wins this game. I think they can go in and kind of take advantage of some silly mistakes by the Texans. So I got them winning 21-17. And I've got them scoring 20 points, which is actually a pretty big deal as well, as we've been talking about. They've only done it twice this year, so this will only be the third time. So yeah, that's my prediction. But I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in, listening to us ramble on about the Bucs. And unfortunately, it hasn't been good news, but hopefully next week it'll be better. And if not, then which quarterbacks do you like in next year's draft? That might be a
If
tough.
not, if not, we'll still be here, and you can always, feel free to comment on our social
Oh,
media.
for sure.
Yeah, to let us know how you really feel,
Mhm.
and we'll be there crying with you.
Absolutely. We'll all be, in the therapy sessions together.
Yeah,
So we really appreciate y'all tuning in. And as always, go
go
Bucs.
Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.